And what I'm seeing is a lot of these sellers don't understand how much it's actually going to cost them by not listing at the right price, meaning they're going to have a mortgage for 6 months, 8 months, whatever it may be. A lot of more marketing goes into it. That's on our end. A lot more time goes into it on our end. A lot more headaches, a lot more anxiety on their end, not being able to do whatever they need to do to go to the next phase in life. It's what's costing them by not pricing accordingly. And at the end of the day, what ends up happening? The price that you tell them the first time you met them, 6 months prior to where they're closing at, is a price that the home sells.
Definitely, and sorry, that let me just say this. So a lot of times, what also sellers don't understand is that at the end of the day, an appraisal. I mean, if you're getting a client that is getting financed, an appraisal has to be done. So what's gonna come to that? If an appraiser says, like the house next door to you sold for like I don't know 315, and you're trying to sell your house for 350. I mean, where do you like what's the word adjust, or where are you coming from saying
How do you
like
justify?
exactly, that's the word. How do you justify that $35,000 difference?
But and I think I know what Giovanni's talking about. But at the same time, I think I've told you guys before, right? I come from a builder background, developer, background, and so the thing is that, I have seen communities, right, where they don't sell very well. You're building a home, you're building a product, and you don't sell very well, right? And you get with the sales counselor out there, and the sales counselor is like, oh, there's no traffic. Oh, it's too far. Oh, people can't find it. It's really tough to get back here. Oh, the homes are one car garage or only three-sided brick or whatever their excuses are. You always find the sales counselor that has all the excuses in the book, right? And so you rotate. You say, hey, you know what, sales counselor? You're going to move to another neighborhood. I'm going to bring somebody else in. And you bring in fresh blood. You bring in somebody that doesn't know any better, that doesn't have any of the objections, right? And this guy starts selling like crazy, right? And the reason that he sells like crazy is because he believes in the product. He believes in what he's selling. He sees the value, and that's why he sells it, Now, I get it, whenever you're talking to buyers, a seller's always going to feel like his home is worth more than what it is, right? But, sometimes, his especially whenever you're looking into, a person that has purchased 3-4 homes before, like he's on his third or fourth home. He's no dummy. He knows what homes sell for. He knows what the value is. He knows what he paid for. And so sometimes you kind of got to get down at his, kind of see it from his eyes and find value in that house yourself, right? And stop trying to compare it to the house down the street or the house that you like personally, right? And I've seen that happen before where I see a house and I just don't like it. I just don't believe in it. And that's what separates the pro realtor from the just regular realtor. It separates him by him seeing the value, and whenever he talks to the other agent or if he brings a buyer, he will sell that home and show them the value that the seller and that the listing agent sees now.
Yeah, and I wholeheartedly agree with that.
Yes.
I wholeheartedly agree with that. If you don't find the value in the product that you're selling, I mean, you're not sold on it yourself. How are you going to sell somebody else on how important this product is to them, or how you think that this is priced accordingly, right? And how this works out for them. The issue comes back to whenever, because you're talking new construction, right? New construction, I'm not saying that you can price set, quote unquote, but the market kind of does follow what's going on within a larger scale within that community. When we're talking about one house in an older community or two houses, whatever it may be, right? In an older community, the value of that product, the value of that home is dictated by the appraisal. You're not going to get away from the appraisal. Now, if a buyer thinks that it's willing to pay an extra $60, $80, $90, $100,000 above market value, like we had that happening during the pandemic, but why did that happen? There was scarcity. Right now, that's not necessarily scarcity. Right? It might be scarcity on how many houses we do have on the market, but there's also scarcity on the buying side, right? So it kind of evens out. So you can't sell necessarily a product It doesn't matter how much you believe in it. At the end of the day, if it's not at the value what the market dictates, it's not going to sell. It might not even appraise at the end of the day.
Well, when it comes to new home sales, it's you can't compare a resale to a new build, even in the neighborhood. Even if
I
it's
agree.
even
Oh
if
my
it's
God.
even if it's the home next door to the one that's being built.
Those are, personally,
hardest
those
ones.
are the hardest one to, to resell, and are probably the ones that are going to drain you. Like,
Well, it won't drain you if you explain to them correctly, what we're talking about here, okay? Because you see, the appraisals on the new builds are cost, they're essentially, I mean, they do comps, with other resales, but essentially what they are is cost of building, What does it cost to build right now, And so they're always going to have a better appraisal than a resale, On top of that, right, and this is what I always tell or what I used to tell my sellers whenever they were trying to sell in a new community. I would tell them, look, you're selling against a brand new home that is being appraised as a price, a price to build, and so what ends up happening is that on top of that, the builder has incentives or has money that it can give to give a better price, to give a discount, to do whatever it needs to do to sell that home. And the reason they can do that is because they have 10 homes.
yes.
You're selling one home. So it's a whole different market that you can't compete with. So whenever somebody wants to sell in a neighborhood that's a resale, the first thing that I do is I say, hey, let me see your spec sheet. Let me see the price sheet. Let me see the upgrades, the option sheet, right? And the reason that I say that is because, okay, now you bought this home. You're upgraded. You have an upgraded lot. You have an upgraded elevation. You have all these options that you paid for, right?
Right.
And you're trying to compare that to a new home that somebody can build brand new right now, that the builder will give them money to purchase the home, incentives to buy the home, and give them closing costs. So are you ready to do that? You got to remember, all these options, everything that you did here, that was extras that you paid for, that essentially you took a loss for it, It wasn't going to add any value to your home. So are you ready to pay for that? No, I'm not ready to pay for that. Okay, then we don't need to list this house. We don't need to list this house. We need to put this house on the market for lease, or you just need to sit in this house and wait until the neighborhood is done. Because once the neighborhood is done, then you're not competing against a builder anymore.
Yeah.
Exactly. I actually just had somebody else call me, and they were in the Woodlands area? They were in the Woodlands area, and they've already gone through, I think it was like 3 realtors at the time. 2 of them were referred, the other one they found it on themselves, and now they were calling me, and they wanted my opinion on their home. So I do my research, I look at what's going on. They're surrounded by new construction. No, it wasn't the Woodlands because they're surrounded by new construction. They're surrounded by new construction. They're priced at what the new construction is selling for. I do the numbers on their house. That builder is no longer in the community. However, the other builders are roughly around the price that they were listed at. And then I asked them, I was like, okay, well, what kind of incentives are you giving? Oh, well, I'm not giving anything. I'm just listing it for accordingly. I was like, why did your realtor list for that? Because that's the price that I wanted to list for. And I was like, well, I'll tell you right now, the good thing is, I don't think it's necessarily a pricing issue. You might be $10,000, $15,000 where I would list that. But number one issue is you're surrounded by new construction. You have nobody to walk through that community to go and view your house before they stop by all these new construction. I was like, that's going to be your main problem is marketing. And I was like, how are you going to handle that? Oh, well, if I don't want to list with another realtor. I want to do this job on my own. I was like, okay, cool. I was like, well, your main problem is your marketing issue. It's like, if I can't get what I want from my house, like, I'm not going to list it. That's fine. It's either not time for you to list, or I'm not going to list it and waste my time doing it. It's a marketing issue. If you're willing to pay for the marketing, that's fine. And I introduced them to a company that I know who does marketing. And I was like, that's who I use for my personal marketing. If you want to take a shot at it, I was like, it's not a price issue. I don't think you're overpriced crazy, right? They're not overpriced to 100,000. 10 to 15 maybe is where I would list that. But their problem there was marketing. Sometimes it's not just price. Right. There's a lot more that takes into selling a house. Mm-hmm. Like I told them, like the bare minimum that the bare minimum that your realtor did was throw the house on the market and did an open house. That's the bare minimum. It takes a lot more to sell a house than that, especially in that community.